Hello everybody, my name is Professor Rich and today we are learning English with a very interesting and exciting story. This is one of my favorite stories to learn English with. If you know the story, then no spoilers in the chat. It's a story about the jungle. The jungle we sometimes call the rainforest. And specifically, this is the Amazonian rainforest, which is a jungle in Bolivia and Peru and some other South American countries. And it's a very exciting and intriguing story about four men who go on an adventure, but not all of them survive. And it's a real story. So, get ready. And let's begin with a question. What would you do if you were lost in the jungle? What would you do if you were lost in the jungle? So, if you are watching us live, then you can answer in the chat. And if you are watching the video afterwards, then you can comment down below, or you can just think about the answers. So, good morning to Saint John. Good morning. Good morning. What do you folks think? My chat interaction window is not working, and that is making things very frustrating for me. Why is that not working? Work, damn you. Ooh. I might even restart the stream if that doesn't work, honestly. Because I think we need that. And it's working. Fantastic. So, answer from Kamal. If I were lost in the jungle, I would get some water first. How would you get some water if you're lost in the jungle, Kamal? I know it says I would call 911. How would you call 911? How would you call 911 if you were lost in the jungle? In the jungle, I don't think you would have mobile phone reception. Vladimir says, I would try to climb a tropical tree. First of all, I think that is impossible. And secondly, well, I think that's impossible. Julia says, I would, please, Julia, I would try to find a shelter or reservation from animals and obtain some fruit in order to stave off the hunger. And Zoya says, I would pray. All right. Fantastic. So, the jungle, it's a serious business. What dangers are there in the jungle? Answers in the chat. What do you know? What dangers are there in the jungle? There's some on the screen there. What is that on the left and what is that on the right? Jean-Jean says, if I happen to be alone, I believe I wouldn't last 48 hours. Let's correct your English a little there, Sanjan, and say, if I happened to be alone, I wouldn't last 48 hours. That's right, Anawat. On the right, we have a big cat, which is called a jaguar. And we've got a snake on the left. That's not a tiger. It is a jaguar. It's pretty hot here, Pallavi, I have to say. Hence why I've ruined my shirt, which, to be honest, my shirt needs ironing. So I thought, hey, if I iron my shirt, I wouldn't do this with the sleeves. But it is quite hot. It's not 30 though. 30, wow. I wish it were 30. If it were 30 degrees, I'd wear a t-shirt. And Maria del Carmen thinks that she is the most dangerous thing in the rainforest. How many guns do you have, Maria del Carmen? So we just said snakes and leopards, nothing else. What about mosquitoes, hunger, dangerous spiders, poisonous water? In the rainforest, everything is very, very dangerous. Let's have a look at some of the vocabulary involved in this story. And I want you to match the phrases to the pictures. So you can see the phrases there at the top, and I want you to match them to the pictures. There are 6 pictures and 6 phrases. The phrases are an experience guide, an undiscovered village, sore feet, they split up, a raft, a rescue mission. And that is how you don't drink coffee. I tried to drink the coffee with my lungs. Not recommended. So Manuel, rather interestingly, thinks that 1 is sore feet. I don't think so. Oh, you've changed it. Well done, Manuel. Julia comments on our previous pictures that a jaguar can charge at you and a cobra can squeeze you out. Yeah. Actually, a cobra can bite you and you die of poison. I think you're talking about an anaconda can squeeze you out. And a jaguar, yeah, they're very fast. So we have a full set of answers from Anawat, and I think I'll use that as the example. The answers are coming up in about 10 seconds. By the way, if you're watching at home, you should use a notepad to note down your answers. It's effective to actually write something, so make sure you do that. And of course, smash that like button and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you don't, comment down below and tell me why not. So, Anawat says 1, undiscovered village. Yes. 2, an experience guide. Yes. 3, a rescue mission. Yes. 4, they split up. Yes. 5, a raft. Yes. 6, sore feet. Yes. Well done. Sore feet. We can see sore feet. That's when someone has a pain in their foot. Their foot. A pain in their foot. And number 5, that is a raft, which is a very simple boat. A boat made just from wood, like wooden logs. Number 4, split up, which means like separate, go separate ways. Number 3, a rescue mission. We have a task to save this person. That's a rescue mission. Number 2 is an experience guide. That means someone who knows where to go And as a guide, they will help you go the right direction, hopefully. And number 1, an undiscovered village. A village which has not been discovered by civilization. We sometimes call this an indigenous village. Indigenous means the population native to that country. For example, I am an indigenous Briton. An indigenous Briton. I'm not an indigenous Englishman because my family is from Ireland. We are Irish Celts. But I am an indigenous Briton. My family have been on these islands for thousands and thousands of years. So we're like these guys in number 1. Then the Germans invaded in 800 AD, and they started a country called England. And well, the rest is history, as they say. So, let's get into the story. To begin with, I'm going to show you the 4 main characters in the story. These are the heroes of our story. So let's have a look at what we've got here. We have... Oh, I wanted you to predict what you think happens in the story. Skipped a step. So before I tell you the main characters in the story, what do you think happens in the story? Have a look, 1 to 6. These things are all in the story. Any ideas what you think happens? Just type an event or a prediction in the chat of what you think happens in this story. For example, the experienced guide gets a sore foot, and so they need to do a rescue mission to get him home. And their rescue mission is they go on a raft, but on the way they see an undiscovered village. Okay, that's my guess. Any guesses what happens in the story? 30 seconds left. Vladimir says they try to find the way to El Dorado. Anawat thinks that a plane crashed somewhere in the Pacific. It's a good start to a story, Anawat. That's a good start to a story, isn't it? Maria del Carmen says people lost in the rainforest are being rescued. Rescued. R-E-S-C-U-E-D. Julia says the group might get lost in the jungle and split up to find a raft and rescue team. Pallavi says, what's it about? Zoya says someone got lost and the team split up. They rescued the man and found a village. Good job, Zoya. That's brilliant. Okay, let's move on. So now I am going to tell you about those main characters. So we have Yoshi, and he's an Israeli backpacker. He's 21. And he is our main character. Yoshi is our main character. He is our hero, along with Kevin, his best friend. Kevin is an American photographer, and he's 25. Kevin, a bit more experienced. Yoshi, quite a young man, really, 21. So we got Yoshi and Kevin, our main characters. Yoshi, a backpacker, young backpacker. Kevin, an American photographer. And remember, there's 4 men, so who are the others? Well, we also have Marcus. Marcus is from Switzerland, and he is a teacher, and he's 29. No spoilers, Manuel? No spoilers. So we got Marcus, the Swiss teacher. He's 29. And finally, Carl. Carl is an Austrian jungle guide. and he's 50. You can talk, Manuel, but talk about the English, not about the story. So there are 4 people. The 4 people: Yoshi, Kevin, Marcus, and Carl. I'm going to read the introduction to the story, and I want you to listen and answer the questions. Let me show you the questions. This is like IELTS listening practice. So there's the questions on the screen. I want you to listen and answer the questions. Look at the questions. You have 30 seconds to look at the questions and then listen to the story. Okay. Are you ready? Escape from the rainforest. 4 young men went into the jungle on the adventure of a lifetime. Not all of them would come out alive. The Amazonian rainforest is roughly the size of Europe or Australia. It is the home of more than half the plant and animal species known to man, many of which are lethal. In 1981, 3 friends went backpacking in a remote area of Bolivia. Yoshi, 21, and his 2 friends, Kevin, 25, and Marcus, 29. They hired an experienced guide, an Austrian called Carl, who promised that he could take them into the rainforest to an undiscovered village. Then they would raft nearly 200 kilometers downriver before flying to the capital, La Paz. Carl said that the journey to the village would take them 7 or 8 days. Before they entered the jungle, the 3 friends made a promise that they would go in together and come out together. The 4 men set off from the town of Apollo, and soon they had left civilization far behind. But after walking for more than a week, there was no sign of the village, and tensions began to appear. The 3 friends began to suspect that Carl, the guide, didn't really know where the village was. Yoshi and Kevin began to get fed up with their friend Marcus because he was complaining about everything, especially his feet, which had become infected and were hurting. Eventually, they decided to abandon the search for the village and just hike is walk, back to Apollo the way they had come. But Kevin was so angry because he thought it was Marcus's fault that they had to cut short their adventure. So he decided that he would raft down the river, and he asked Yoshi to join him. He didn't want Marcus to come with them. Carl and Marcus agreed to go back to Apollo on foot. The 3 friends agreed to meet in a hotel in La Paz in a week's time. Early next morning, the 2 pairs of travelers said goodbye and set off on their different journeys. So, put your answers in the chat, what you think what you think the answers are to these questions. Manuel, no more spoilers or I will have to mute you. But actually, I don't agree that the story has a happy ending. I think it has an unhappy ending to some extent, but we will see. And we're going to have a little vote for fun. You can only vote for one person, so vote for the person who you really, really think will survive. Who do you think will really think will survive? Is it Yoshi? Is it Kevin? Is it Marcus? Marcus, the older of the friends, the more experienced. Or Carl, who's a guide? Who do you think will survive? And while they vote on that, let's have a look at some answers for the people watching this video later. If you are watching this video later, smash that like button and hit subscribe. You found the best place to learn English on the internet. Right, so how large is the Amazonian rainforest? Roughly the size of Europe or Australia. Thank you, Sanjan. How long did Carl say the journey would take? 7 to 8 days. Well done, Zoya. What did they start to suspect about Carl? He didn't really know where the village was, says Zoya. That's right. Why did Kevin get fed up with Marcus? Marcus was always complaining. Thank you, Maria del Carmen. And it was about his feet. Thank you, Zoya. What was the plan at this point? What was the plan at this point? Zoya says split up and meet later. That's basically it. Does anyone have anything more detailed for the plan? So, basically, Manuel, spoilers. Spoilers, sir. Spoilers. You're muted for 5 minutes. I love you, Manuel, but I'm sorry. No spoilers. He can't help it. He's just such a sociable person. He wants to tell the story. Just 5 minutes. Can he handle it for 5 minutes? Okay. Pallavi, I don't have female characters because in the real story there were no female characters. It's a real story. So it's not about characters. These are real people. And it's a real story. So Sanjan says, Yoshi and Kevin would take a raft and continue the journey. Marcus and Carl would go back to Apollo. Yes, that's right. And then, which pair would you rather be with? Which pair would you rather be with? So a personal question for you. And look at that lovely conditional. Would you rather? Would you rather? So which pair would you rather be with? Yoshi and Kevin or Marcus and Carl? What do you think? And we have a lovely poll in the chat. Interestingly, chat thinks that Marcus has 0 chance. Marcus is dead, but they think Carl has a good chance. Kevin, not so much. It's funny you don't think Kevin's any good. Is that because he's a photographer? I didn't understand what you said. Pallavi, okay, let me say it again. This is a real story. It's not a novel. This happened, this event. These 4 people are real people, and this happened in the 80s. It's a real story. And it was about 4 men who went to the jungle. There were no women in the group. Okay? So I'm not saying anything about women surviving in the jungle. This is just the story. It's a real story. It really happened. 4 guys went to the jungle, and we're doing the real story. So if I put a woman in the story, that means I'm changing the story. Okay. So I think it's time to hear the next part of the story. The real story that really happened. Okay? I just want to emphasize that. It's a real story. So, Yoshi and Kevin soon realized that going by river was a big mistake. The river got faster and faster, and soon they were in rapids. What are rapids, chat? See, now I wish that Manuel was unmuted, because I think he's great at giving definitions of vocabulary. Can't be long now, Manuel. Rapids. The raft was swept down the river at an incredible speed until it hit a rock. Kevin managed to swim to land, but Yoshi was swept away by the rapids. But Yoshi didn't drown. He came up to the surface several kilometers downriver. Can you imagine that? You're in the river being swept away by the rapids. You can't breathe. Your head's going underwater. You're just spinning around and spinning for kilometers down the river. And then you come up. You come up out the rapids. And you are not dead. By an incredible piece of luck, he found their backpack floating in the river. The backpack contained a little food, insect repellent, a lighter, and most important of all, the map. The 2 friends were now separated by a canyon and 6 or 7 kilometers of jungle. So that is our current situation. And I have some questions for you. Why was Yoshi lucky? How far apart were the friends now? And who would you rather be in this situation? In this situation, who would you rather be? Who would you rather be in this situation? Who would you rather be in this situation? Would you rather be Yoshi, who was incredibly lucky, or would you rather be Kevin? And try to remember how much are they separated by? He's back. He found the backpack with food. Amazing. That's why he was lucky. with food and the map. And how far apart were they? It's about 6 kilometers of jungle. 6 kilometers! In the jungle, that's long. I mean, in the city, that's long. In the jungle, that is... How do you find someone who is 6 kilometers away from you in a jungle? It's impossible. Impossible. So Sanjan says Carl, he'd rather be Carl, the 50-year-old experienced guide, and that makes sense. That makes sense. I totally understand why you would rather be Carl. Oh, Pallavi missed the story. Do you want me to show you the text, Pallavi? Here's the text. I'm not sure you can read it, though. Maybe if you zoom in, you can see it. Let's listen to the next part of the story. I will, of course, give you the notes after the class, as always, so you can look at this yourself. The next part of the story. Kevin was feeling desperate. He didn't know if Yoshi was alive or dead. But he started walking downriver to look for him. He felt responsible for what had happened to his friend. Yoshi, however, was feeling very optimistic. He was sure that Kevin would look for him. So he started walking up the river, calling his friend's name. Kevin! 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 But nobody answered. At night, Yoshi tried to sleep, but he felt absolutely terrified. The jungle was full of noises. Suddenly, he woke up because he heard a branch breaking. He turned on his torch. There was a jaguar staring right at him. Yoshi was trembling with fear. But then he remembered something that he once saw in a film. He used the cigarette lighter to set fire to the insect repellent spray to make a flamethrower. And he managed to scare the jaguar away. He managed to scare the jaguar away. So, that's not the right bit. So, how was Kevin feeling? What happened to Yoshi on his first night? And what would you do in that situation? You know, the situation with Yoshi on the first night. What happened? Answers in the chat. So Kevin, on the first night, he felt guilty for what had happened, and he felt responsible, and he felt desperate. Very good. Remember, it was Kevin's idea that they split up from Marcus and Carl. Kevin felt responsible for Yoshi. What happened to Yoshi on his first night? Manuel says, leopard want to eat him like breakfast. Okay. Jaguar. Unfortunately, we haven't got a jaguar here, but yeah. A jaguar is a jungle leopard. It's a little different. The jaguar wanted to eat him for breakfast. But he survived with an amazing technique. Amazing. What would you do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? Would you ever sleep in the jungle again if that happened to you? How would you survive another night? Yeah, Yoshi couldn't sleep. Unsurprising, really. Can you imagine? Sometimes I can't sleep at night because I'm a bit stressed about work. Now, if that happens, I can't sleep at night because I'm a bit stressed about work. How would you feel if you're in the jungle, alone, totally lost, and there's all these noises like... And you know that 90% of the creatures in the jungle can kill you. Yeah, well done, Zoya. He took the lighter and set the insect repellent on fire, and he scared it away. Well done. Unless you have a death wish, I don't think you would want to sleep in the Amazonian rainforest. Amazonian as an adjective. Actually, Amazon rainforest is okay as well as noun. It works. Very good sentence, Sanjan. All right, let's move on to the next part of the story. Kevin was feeling desperate. He didn't know if Yoshi was alive or dead. He started walking downriver to look for him. We've already done that bit. Teacher Rich was feeling desperate. He knew he had already read that part of the story. Okay, let's go to the next part of the story. After 5 days alone, Yoshi was exhausted and starving. Suddenly, Suddenly, as he was walking, he saw a footprint on the path. It was a hiking boot. It had to be Kevin's footprint. He followed the path until he saw another footprint. But then he realized, to his horror, that it was the same footprint. And it wasn't Kevin's. It was his own. He had been walking around in a circle. Suddenly, Yoshi realized he would never find Kevin. He felt sure that Kevin must be dead. Yoshi felt depressed and on the point of giving up. On the point of giving up. So why did Yoshi feel optimistic and then hopeless? And what do you think happened to Kevin? What do you think happened to Kevin? Why did Yoshi feel optimistic and then hopeless? And what do you think had happened to Kevin? "30 seconds for your answers, folks. And while we're waiting for that, let's have a little reminder. If you haven't yet smashed that like button, maybe now you would like to smash that like button, hit subscribe. This is the place to learn English. So Yoshi felt optimistic because he saw footprints on the path and he thought it had to be Kevin's footprints. But then he realized it was his own footprint. So he had been walking in circles. Listen to that, past perfect continuous. He had been walking in circles. He realized that he had been walking in circles. Well done, Julia. That's well explained. It's kind of legal language to say alleged. Not allegedly, but alleged. He found the alleged Kevin's footprint, or he allegedly found Kevin's footprint, but then we mean allegedly the verb. So he found the alleged footprint. Yoshi later felt helpless because he realized he was walking in circles with an S when he saw his own footprint. So what do you think happened to Kevin? What do you think happened to Kevin? Yes, I think we all know what happened to Kevin. Oh dear. Oh dear. Let's find out. Here's the next part of the story. But Kevin wasn't dead. He was still looking for Yoshi. But after nearly a week in the jungle, basically without eating, he was weak and tired from a lack of food and sleep. He decided it was time to forget Yoshi and try to save himself. He had just enough strength to hold onto a piece of wood in the river and let himself float down the river with the wood. Kevin was incredibly lucky. He was rescued by 2 Bolivian hunters in a canoe. The 2 men only hunted in that part of the jungle once per year. So, if he had been there a short time earlier or later, they never would have seen him. The hunters took him back to the town of San Jose, and he spent 2 days in the hospital or the local medical centre, probably some guy's house. I imagine it's a small town. He spent 2 days recovering. Remember, he nearly starved. He's starving to death, totally deprived of sleep. So, we got some questions. Question 1. Why was Kevin really lucky? Why was Kevin really lucky? And question 2, if you were Kevin, what would you do now? If you were Kevin, what would you do now? So why was Kevin really lucky? And if you were Kevin, what would you do now? You are right, Manuel, that 2 people in a canoe rescued him. But why was he really lucky? There's a bit more to it than that. Hello there, Mujahid. How are you doing? The Bolivian hunters who rescued him only hunted in this part of the forest once a year. Wow. Wow. I mean, that is really incredibly lucky. Very, very lucky, really. So, after he was rescued, Kevin spent 2 days recovering. If you were Kevin, what would you do now? Yes, absolutely. I think we have about 10 more minutes of the class, and then it's question time. So just have a think. If you were Kevin, what would you do now? Let me tell you the next part of the story. So, as soon as Kevin felt well enough, he went to a Bolivian army base and he asked them to look for Yoshi. The army was sure that Yoshi must be dead. But, in the end, Kevin persuaded them to take him up in a plane and fly over the part of the rainforest where Yoshi could be. It was a hopeless search. The plane had to fly too high and the forest was too dense. They couldn't see anything at all. Kevin felt terribly guilty. He was convinced that it was all his fault that Yoshi was gonna die in the jungle. Kevin's last hope was to pay a local man with a boat to take him up the river to look for his friend. Kevin's last hope was to pay a local man with a boat to take him up the river to look for his friend. So, What did Kevin do to try to save Yoshi? Why did it fail? What do you think happened to Yoshi? What would you think if you were Kevin? What did Kevin do to try to save Yoshi? Why did it fail? What do you think happened to Yoshi? What would you think if you were Kevin? And hello, Dan. That is a volcano. After Kevin recovered, he went straight to the Bolivian army base to seek help to save Yoshi. Mi amigo está perdido en la selva. Deben buscarle. That's how he speaks on the audio of this story. I presume that Kevin didn't have great Spanish. That's right, Ashley. So they flew, F-L-E-W, they flew over the jungle, but it was too dense to find him. They flew over the jungle, but it was too dense to find him. It was like finding a needle in a haystack, says Anawat. That is exactly what it was like. Manuel says, were I to be Kevin, I would carry on looking for him till I found out where my friend was. And a perfect explanation from Julia. Well done. Kevin went to the Bolivian army base and convinced them to take a flight over the jungle. Unfortunately, the jungle was too dense. And it was in vain. The flight was in vain. The rescue mission was in vain. The rescue mission failed because the helicopter had to fly too high because of the trees and the forest was too dense to locate his friend. Oye, muchacho. Oye, pues muchacho, estás perdido en la selva. ¿Qué vas a hacer ahora? Pues no tienes nada que hacer. Ya estás perdido. So Shimi thinks that Yoshi was rescued by Kevin. Not yet, Shimi. All right, let's listen. It's the last part of the story. By now, Yoshi had been on his own in the jungle for nearly 3 weeks. He hadn't eaten for days. He was starving, exhausted, and slowly losing his mind. It was evening. He lay down by the side of the river, ready for another night alone in the jungle. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a bee buzzing in his ear. He thought a bee had got inside his mosquito net. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the buzzing noise wasn't a bee. It was a boat. Yoshi was too weak to shout. Give it! Give it! Give it! But Kevin had already seen him. It was a 1 in a million chance. But Yoshi was saved. When Yoshi had recovered, he and Kevin flew to the city of La Paz, and they went directly to the hotel where they had agreed to meet Marcus and Carl. But Marcus and Carl were not there. The two men had never arrived back in the town of Apollo. The Bolivian army organized a search of the rainforest. But Marcus and Carl were never seen again. So, what happened to Marcus and Carl? And would you like to go to the jungle now? Why and why not? As I said, this is a true story, so I'm very sorry about Marcus and Carl. It did happen quite a long time ago, so I think we can talk about it. Of course, it is always sad when somebody dies, but I think at this point it is quite certain that Marcus and Carl are dead. They certainly never reached La Paz. Not as far as anyone knows. And this is kind of a famous story now. It was made into a film with Daniel Radcliffe playing Yoshi. Yeah, you chose the wrong person there, Sanjan. Yeah, so let's talk about Marcus. Let's talk about Marcus because there's some information about Marcus that you guys didn't know. Sorry, not Marcus. Marcus. Carl. Carl. Let's talk about Carl. Some information about Carl you didn't know. Carl was not a jungle guide. He was not a jungle guide. Carl was a wanted criminal. Carl was a scam artist. Carl scammed tourists for money. Oh dear. So, it's possible that Carl really got lost and had no idea how to escape the jungle. But certainly, I think we can't rely on Carl to help Marcus. So actually, Marcus was in quite a bad situation when he had infected feet and he went with Carl on his own. I feel quite bad for Marcus. I don't think Marcus really understood how dangerous the jungle was. Well, Sanjan, the thing is, if Carl survived, he certainly would have hidden his identity. However, I think it's very unlikely at this stage because I'm pretty sure the police would have found him. So I'm pretty sure that Carl died in the jungle as well as Marcus. What's the real NAND of this story? What do you mean NAND? Do you mean name? I can give you guys a link to find out about it. You can find out about the real Yoshi Ginsberg, the real guy, and you can find out more about the story from there. So he wrote a book about it, and you can check out his book. The real Yoshi. He is now a motivational speaker, as you might imagine. There he is. That's the real guy. No, he's not 21 anymore. Yeah, the story was, of course, some time ago. Now he's 65. Yeah, I know it says you shouldn't lie on your resume, especially when it comes to Jungle Guide. I think that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So there is also a film, Pallavi, so you might want to see the film. I still haven't seen this film. I really should see it. I've heard that it's not a great film, but I quite like Daniel Radcliffe. He's all right. So, yeah, the real film. It's called Jungle, and it's from 2017. Yes, he wrote a book, Ashley. So you can find Yoshi's book, but you can also see the film with Daniel Radcliffe. But as I say, I've never seen the film. It's just called Jungle. 2017. I should watch it. Maybe I'll watch it today. I think it's okay, Pallavi. Yeah. I don't think it has like an adult age rating or anything. Where is the age rating? 15, Pallavi. Are you over 15? Enrique, hello from Mexico. Oh, you missed a good one, Enrique. We're talking about South America, all class today. You've missed it. You need to go back to the start of the class and watch from the start. No spoilers about the story. You'll love it. All right, everybody. Thank you. So, grammar. We did, of course, take a look at the second conditional today. The second conditional is for imaginary or hypothetical situations in the present or future. If I were Kevin, I would feel terrible. So, if plus past. If I were Kevin, subject plus would plus infinitive. I would feel terrible. This is imaginary situation in the present or future. Also, we can say, I would feel terrible if I were Kevin. So subject plus would plus infinitive, if plus past. The trick here is after if, you put the past, even though we're talking about the present or future. We use the past. This type of past is called the unreal past. Unreal past. So, the second conditional is used for imaginary or hypothetical situations, as I said. If I were Kevin, I would feel terrible. Is it talking about the past or present? Does the person saying this feel terrible? Really? In reality. So, is it talking about the past or present? And does the person saying this feel terrible in reality? So, it is, of course, talking about the present, even though we are using the past. Thank you, Dan. And does the person saying this feel terrible in reality? No, they don't feel terrible. They are imagining that they would feel terrible in the situation that they were Kevin. If I didn't tell her I could leave today, all the leaves are brown and the sky is grey. That's right, Manuel. That and this are my favourite ways of teaching the second conditional. They are my favourite ways of teaching it. Oh, thank you, Manuel. I do try. Honestly, it drives me crazy sometimes. You know, I get things that pop up on my YouTube and it's someone teaching something and it's like 15 minutes of just, I'm sorry, but it is so rubbish. And it's got like 10,000 views. And I just think like, what is that? What is that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Wish I did get it, but I do not understand that. But hey ho, that's life, folks. You gotta just carry on. All right, so let's have some practice with the second conditional. What would you do if you were teacher rich? Or what would you eat if you were a cat? What would you wear if you were a superhero? What would you see if you were a time traveler? What would you sing if you were a rock star? What would you buy if you were a millionaire? What would you read if you were a librarian? What would you cook if you were a chef? What would you invent if you were a scientist? And what would you teach if you were a teacher? That's kind of a copy, isn't it? So how about something else? How about what would you photograph if you were... I don't know. What would you... Whatever. We're just going to have 9. Okay, 1 to 9. Answer whichever one you want in the chat, and we'll see what you come up with. So answer whichever of these you want in the chat, and I will highlight them. I was sure that you wanted to tell us the story because you dropped hints. Did I? Yeah, maybe I did. It was on my mind. Julia says, thank you very much and have a great day. Thank you, Julia. You too. We're not finished yet. We've still got a little bit more. And then I'm chilling out for the day. Shimi says, if I were a cat, I'd eat fish. Sure, why not? You know, if I were a cat, I agree with you. I think I would be a cat that likes salmon. I would eat a lot of salmon. If I were a cat, I'd eat salmon. Speaking of cats, where are they? Ginger! Pepper! Gingy! Come on! Oh, he's almost coming. He's woken up, but I don't know if he's going to come. Gingy! Come on! Ah, he's so close now. He's just the other side of the room and he's looking at me. Come on, Gingy! I need to pretend that I've got treats. Look, I've got treats. Ah, it worked. Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty. Come on, say hello. Okay, I'm going to just turn off my fake background for a moment. I don't need it on anyway. Hang on, kitty. Ah, there we go. Right, here he is. Whoa, come on. Go away, kitty. Come on, say hello, kitty. Say hello, kitty. I'll just do this in videos from now on. Forget the English teaching. Let's just do this. I'll probably get millions of views. Look, everybody, it's a kitty. He's so cute. Look at the cute little kitty. Look at this cute little kitty. Look at this cute little kitty. Ah, okay. Okay, kitty, kitty. Okay, kitty, kitty. What do you think? 2 million views? Let's go. That's where it's at, folks. Cat videos. If you want to do YouTube, do cat videos. That's the way to go. Let's have a look what you guys have got. Pallavi says, if I were teacher Rich, I would not teach grammar and difficult topics that Pallavi doesn't understand. Nice! Perfect grammar, Pallavi. Well done. Julia Hatar says, if I were a librarian, I would have an opportunity to read a treasure trove of books at my heart's content. That is a marvellous sentence, Julia. Well done. Very happy with that. Were I to be a cat, I would eat all that my owner gave me. No time for complaint. That's tricky, though. Is it a male cat? Ginger? Yeah, Ginger is a male cat. Gingy! Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty. Oh, it's a cool little kitty. Gingy! Come on, check it out, Gingy. You sure you don't want some of that? Huh? Okay. Were I to be a superhero, I would wear a special marvelous suit like Captain America. Nice. How do we find out if a cat is male or female? The tail, under the tail, and then down here. So even after the balls from the male cat, you can still see something there that the female cat does not have. So that's how you do it, Pallavi. Do you want to be a vet? Manuel says, were I to be a time traveler, I would see how the people lived in ancient Egypt. Oh, yeah. And I watched a podcast recently with Joe Rogan and some guy who was talking about how the pyramids were... What was it? I don't know. It was super interesting, though. I really, really, really want to listen to that again. I would be an Emma Frost clone if I were a superhero. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Emma Frost. Emma Frost it's funny, right? Emma Frost has like a mega reputation in comic books, but I think in films she's never really portrayed as the fans want. But I think she's consistently thought of as like the hottest female superhero. But in the film, they never seem to do it well. Were I to be a scientist, I would search for ghosts and gods, whether they're real or fake. But Dan. Looking for God with science is like looking for sound with a magnifying glass. Were I to be a rock star, I would sing all of Rod Stewart's songs. I don't want to talk about how you've broken my heart. Julia says, were I to be a millionaire, I would donate to those in need and give the donations to the church. Lovely, Julia. I can be either a teacher, a professor, or another office job. Oh, a professor? Sounds pretty good, Pallavi. A teacher, yes, indeed. Do you want to be a teacher or professor? Were I to be a millionaire, I would buy a cruise ship to myself and travel till the Grim Reaper grappled me. Not sure about grappled me, but till the Grim Reaper came is good enough. Busy day, guys. See you all. Pavia, you should check this one out, but afterwards, after the stream. Real good story. Real good story. But good for you to pop by. Good for you. Listen to that English. Good for you to pop by. Thanks for popping by. All right, let's move on then. So, homework assignments. Deadline for the 4th of May. That is Saturday. You're a resident of a town where a supermarket is proposed to be built. Many locals, including yourself, are opposed to this because of the negative impact it could have on the community. You decide to write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper to inform the public about the community's objections and the actions you plan to take to oppose the construction. You must explain why you and the other residents are opposed to the building of the new supermarket and describe at least 2 actions that the local residents are planning to take in order to show their opposition. Your letter should be in formal tone. Make sure your arguments are clear and your ideas are well organized. Use ChatGPT if you want, but if it sounds like a robot, you will get lower marks than human attempts. Your letter should be approximately 150 to 200 words in length. That's the homework. Moving on, we got question time, folks. And of course, you can download the notes from today's class, as with all those classes. The link to do that right now is in the chat. In addition to that, you can also download the notes from today down below the video. As always, also below the video, you can find a way to buy me a coffee should you wish to do so. You can also join our community, join our Discord, which is not the most active Discord in the world, but one day it will be. One day it will be. So it's a good time to join now and establish yourself and say hello to everybody, because this time next year it will be so popular you won't believe it, and the channel will hit 10 billion subscribers. All right, folks, so here come our questions. Are you ready? Are you ready? Question time. So, who had that question about applied linguistics? Let's hear that. Anawat says, "Remind sharing your opinions of learning Spanish as a second language. I'm curious to hear how it went so we can gain insights for our own language learning journey." That is awesome, Anawat. I love that question. And yeah, I need to make a change to this thing so that the questions don't disappear. It's really frustrating, actually, how they do. Just give me a second. I'm going to just try to change this right now if I can. Yes, that's it. Just take off showtime like that. That should do it. So now it shouldn't disappear, I think. That should stay. Right. Yes, I will. So, Right. So, there's an important thing. Let's go through this in order. First of all, in 2007, I knew nothing about learning languages. Really, I knew nothing about learning languages in 2007. Okay? There's a few things I did. I joined a forum, an excellent forum, called How to Learn a Language Forum or something. I don't know if it still exists, but if it does, I imagine it's... I can't imagine that it's the same as it used to be. Yeah, it still exists. It's the How to Learn Any Language Forum. How to Learn Any Language Forum. I'll show you. So this is the one. If you search, you might even find my posts. I can't remember the name I posted under, but you might find them. It was like 2007. So I joined that forum, howtolearnanylanguages.com. And on that forum, there were lots of polyglots. Polyglots being people who learn multiple languages. So they're very academic people, kind of intense studying. And they gave me some guidance because I knew I wanted to learn. I wanted to move to Spain. And so I wanted to move to Spain. So I knew I had to start learning Spanish, right? And I knew I had about 6 months to get started. So on that forum, they recommended audio linguistic method. Okay. And the courses that I looked at were Pimsleur, which is a very, very old language learning course, and learning Spanish like crazy. They were the methods, and this is the method. I'll show you the method. Listen to the conversation. Hola. ¿De dónde eres? Soy inglés. No hablo español. Gracias. And then it says, now repeat. Soy inglés. I'm English. Soy inglés. Right? And then it moves on. It says, and how do you say, I'm not Spanish? No soy español. No soy español. And how do you say, I want a coffee? Quiero un café. Quiero un café. So it's like that. The whole course is like that. And I did that minimum 1 hour a day, every day for 6 months. Minimum 1 hour a day. Sometimes I did 2 hours, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 1 hour and a half, but minimum 1 hour a day. I started my day with it. I got up, had a cold shower, and then I did a 30-minute lesson right at the start of the day, every day, and then I did some more later on, right? With this audiolingual. So speak and repeat, plus I wrote it as well. I wrote it and repeated and listened. And I did hundreds of hours of that. Okay? Then I went to Spain and I realized that I could say some basic things after 6 months of studying this. 1 hour a day, every day, I could say basic things. It was just basic. And I couldn't understand anything. I could not understand anything. Nothing. So I was a little bit upset because I thought, whoa, I put a lot of effort into this for 6 months and I can't understand anything. And I can speak basic. I thought 6 months I'd be like really good. So that sucked. And next I thought, right, what I need loads of vocabulary. That's what I need. So I began to study vocabulary using spaced or interval repetition, which is, like this. You have the flashcard and you go, oh, how do I say rewind in Spanish? Rebobinar. It's rebobinar, right? Or you do it the other way. You go, perro? Oh, what's perro? Perro, dog. Oh, yes, dog, right? So I did that. I did that like crazy. I learned thousands of words. Thousands. Centellarse. What does that mean, Manuel? Se centellan. Centellarse. Sus ojos se centellan. Oh dear, I learned some absolute rubbish, I tell you. So I learned thousands of words doing that. And then I realized that didn't help me speak. Actually, it didn't help me much at all. And then I realized that I forgot most of those words. Centellarse is an exception, but most of them I forgot. And to be honest, centellarse is not a useful word. So, basically, I started to realize that audiolingualism, it got me started, but it wasn't great. And spaced interval recognition, actually, I didn't get a lot out of that at all. It was a lot of work, and it didn't get me anywhere. So, I needed something else. So then, by this point, by the way, I've lived in Spain for like 18 months. So now we're in about 2009, and I've been teaching. So I've started to learn about languages. And I started to realize and started to understand also from my learning that languages are not about getting loads of words, and they're not about repetition, but they're about meaning, meaningful engagement. Phrases plus meaningful engagement. So what did I do? Well, I started to learn phrases. I started to make notes of useful phrases whenever I saw or heard them. I started to do intercambio de idiomas, or language exchanges with local Spanish people who wanted to learn English. And when we did a language exchange, I took my notebook and I said, hey, to start with, let's speak English for 30 minutes, and I'll make notes while you speak, and then we swap and we'll speak Spanish for 30 minutes. Right? And that's what we did. And I did loads of that. Conversational practice with phrasal corrections. Oh, that was great. And I did that for almost 2 years. And after that time, now I've lived in Spain at that point for 3 years. And those 18 months of intercambio de idiomas were very good. That's what I needed. But also the shift, the change in thinking that came from my language learning, that also really helped. So the idea that you learn phrases. I remember having this realization with several phrases, and these are phrases which have really stuck in my head. But there's several phrases that I learned that I really realized it's all about phrases, not words, not grammar even, because my grammar was so good in Spanish. I studied it all on the websites, learned all of the, pretérito de subjuntivo de whatever, the imperfecto de subjuntivo and the pretérito perfecto and whatever. I learned all this nonsense, right? And then realized you don't even really need that. Grammar is actually, it has some use. It's better than individual words. Individual words and spaced repetition don't do it. It's a waste of time. Unless you want to pass an exam and then forget everything, it's a waste of time. But grammar has some use. However, I realized even the grammar wasn't that great. It was all about phrases. So what phrases did I learn? Let me show you some that stuck in my head. That's definitely one that really stuck in my head early, and I realized it. La verdad que, la verdad que, la verdad que, la verdad que, la verdad que no. La verdad que sí, la verdad que sí, la verdad que no. Just, it's a way of giving your opinion. It's like, I think. Or, the truth is, to tell the truth, right? In English, to tell the truth, la verdad que no. It doesn't matter what it means. It's a way of giving your opinion. That's it. It's like creo, right? Which is I think in Spanish. But we just say, la verdad que el gato da en la ventana. La verdad que tengo dos gatos, ¿sabes? Tengo dos. Un hombre y una mujer. Ya te digo. La mujer. Okay. What am I talking about? It's funny how your personality changes in other languages. So, la verdad que also es lo que más me gusta. It's what I like the most. Es lo que más me gusta. Es lo que más me gusta, right? And stuff like that. Yo si fuese tú. Yeah, just little phrases. Get those little phrases. That's what it's all about. Ya te digo. I said it before. Ya te digo. Ya te digo. Ya te digo. Now, if you translate this directly, it's like something like, already I tell you. And it doesn't make sense. Because actually, it doesn't mean already I tell you. Okay? Ya te digo means listen up. It's like escucha, ya te digo. It's like I'm gonna tell you. Actually, more than already I tell you, right? So yeah, learn the phrases. Learn the phrases. Phrases. Hace siglos que no te veo. There you go. Hace siglos que no te veo. Oye, Manuel. Hace siglos que no te veo. I haven't seen you in ages. Hace siglos que no te veo. Oye, no te hagas ilusiones. No te hagas ilusiones. Oh, pronunciation's gone a bit. No te hagas ilusiones. No te hagas ilusiones. Don't kid yourself. No te hagas ilusiones. No te hagas ilusiones. Don't kid yourself, kids. Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. It's all about the phrases. Phrases, phrasal pronunciation, focus on the sounds, tune into those sounds, say the phrase as a phrase. As a phrase. Nanda korewa. Like, that's Japanese for what the hell is that? Nanda korewa. Actually, it's what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Nanda korewa. Nanda korewa. What the hell is that? It's Nanda sorewa. Vietnamese. Congratulations. Chap bung, chap bung, chap bung. Happy New Year. Chap bung nam oi. Happy Independence Day. Chap bung nai độc lập. Chap bung nai độc lập. Okay, phrases, folks. Was ist mit den Katzen bitte? What's wrong with the cats in German? Yeah, it's the best way. It's the best way, right? So let me just emphasize that again. Meaningful interaction. Comprehensible input. Stephen Krashen. Google it. Comprehensible input, meaningful interaction, comprehensible output. Comprehensible output by... What's her name? Meryl Swain. Comprehensible output. Meryl Swain. Comprehensible input, comprehensible output. Get it all in there. Meaningful interaction, comprehensible input, comprehensible output. Lexical learning. Michael Swan. These things were established in the 80s and 90s. We should be well ahead of this word-to-word grammar-based learning, okay? The pedagogy was established in the 80s and 90s by these wonderful people up here. Task-based learning by David Ellis and what's the lady's name? Jane Ellis. Jane Wallace. I always get the name wrong. Jane Wallace, task-based learning. This is how you learn language, folks. Meaningful interaction, comprehensible input, comprehensible output, lexical learning, task-based learning. Notice grammar's not there. Okay, stories. Learn with stories. Dialogic, storytelling. Jamie Keddy is your man for that. All right. Learn with meaning. Phrases, etc., etc., etc. Come on, Pallavi, don't be silly. Just because Manuel spams the chat. So, Pallavi says, do you want to learn some Hindi? I know some Hindi. I know some Hindi. John. Mary John. Desi, right? Desi? Is that Hindi? Oh! Namaste. All right. Thank you. I hope that's helpful for you, Anuat. I'm ranting. Sorry. I've started to suspect that I might have ADHD. Undiagnosed ADHD. Weird thing. I don't know if any of you out there think that might be the case. But someone who has experience working with ADHD people recently commented on it and said, hey, have you considered that you might have undiagnosed ADHD? And I'm like, no. But maybe you're right. So yeah, hey, we've all got all kinds of issues, haven't we? That's life. Right. Let's go back up. I'm totally lost now. Yeah, that's it. Mujahid. Oh, and we've got one from Dan. I'll just do Dan's quickly first, hopefully. Is this sentence taken from non-native? Looks as if it's a dangling modifier. While boarding eligibility, health insurance must be made affordable. While boarding eligibility? I mean, health insurance must be made affordable is great, but what is it? I don't understand while boarding eligibility. What does it mean, boarding eligibility? Boarding eligibility. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. No, I still don't understand that. I still don't understand it. No, don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't understand what boarding eligibility means. But health insurance must be made affordable is fine. All right. Right, Mujahid. May I know what topics are taught in the master's degree for applied linguistics? For linguistics, I'm interested. You said before applied linguistics. I don't know as much about linguistics. But applied linguistics, I can tell you about that. So the MSc Applied Linguistics. So you have issues in applied linguistics, which are things like the myth of the native speaker, language learning and teaching. Is language innate or learned? Things like that. That's issues in applied linguistics. Then you have sociolinguistics, which is the intersection of social groups, ethnicity, class, wealth, nationality, with how people use language, basically. So sociolinguistics, it's the interaction of social groups with how people use language. So, for example, sociolinguistics will be concerned with how the working class speak compared to how people normally speak, how immigrants speak the language compared to the indigenous population, that sort of thing. That's sociolinguistics. Personally, I like the idea of social linguistics. I think it's very interesting, but I think that social linguistics currently is inundated with an extremist political agenda, which means that most of the studies coming out of social linguistics right now are absolute garbage because they basically have a political agenda. And what's the point? You can't do academic studies if you have a political agenda attached. So for the moment, social linguistics is trash, but in the future it might come back. So issues in applied linguistics, social linguistics, discourse analysis. Discourse analysis is a variety of techniques used to analyze spoken and written texts. Notice I said spoken texts. Apparently you can refer to texts as spoken as well as written. I don't know. Ask Scott Thornbury. So yeah, discourse analysis, a variety of techniques used to, for example, counting the pronoun usage in a Donald Trump speech. So how many times does Donald Trump say I, me, we, they? And then compared to Obama's speech, how many times does he say I, me, we, they? And then what does that tell us about that speech? That's discourse analysis, essentially. So what have we got? Social linguistics, issues in applied linguistics, discourse analysis, theoretical syntax. So theoretical syntax is the intention to create a rule set of a universal syntax which may fit all known languages. So theoretical syntax is the attempt, it's not even the intention, it's the attempt to create a rule set of universal syntax which may fit all known languages. Syntax means rules. So if you like grammar, you'll love theoretical syntax. Personally, I loved theoretical syntax. It was my favorite topic. However, I was pushed in the direction of sociolinguistics. But I found theoretical syntax way more interesting. Theoretical syntax, by the way, has 0 applications for language learning. Actually, it has 0 applications for basically anything. I think in the past, people thought that theoretical syntax would help with technology, speech recognition stuff, but the way that large language models work, like ChatGPT, is nothing to do with theoretical syntax. So theoretical syntax has basically no application. It's just a nice thing to talk about. It's super theoretical, but it's really, really fun. It's really, really fun. It's super fun, but totally pointless. So there you go. Theoretical syntax, discourse analysis, social linguistics, issues in applied linguistics. Anything else? Can't think of anything else particularly that stood out to me. Yeah. I think that might be it. Yeah, that's essentially it. So any follow-up questions to that, Mujahid, before I move on to other people's? You sent me the link to the Discord. The link to the Discord's everywhere. I don't understand how you could miss it. Literally posted it in the chat like 10 seconds ago. It's that link in the chat, Mujahid. So any other questions about applied linguistics, go right ahead. Dan says he sent the message again. Is that right? While broadening eligibility, health insurance must be made affordable. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It means while they are broadening eligibility, health insurance must be made affordable. Looks like a dangling modifier to me. Well, it depends how severe it is, doesn't it, Manuel? I mean, the example I gave is that I find it extremely difficult to do one thing. It's one of the reasons why I think I can stream not too bad, because when you're streaming, you need to do loads of things at once. Like you need to talk and pay attention to the chat and type stuff and do other things as well. And actually, I'm quite good at that. As we say, multitasking. But if I need to focus on one thing and do one thing, it's difficult for me. It's very difficult for me. I get really impatient. So whenever someone asks me to do a simple task, like turn on the dishwasher, or like, hi, Rich, could you go through this spreadsheet of students and check that their attendance is correct in all the columns? And could you enter this data into the spreadsheet? Whoosh. I am terrible at that. There's kind of like very simple, repetitive tasks. It's like I can feel my skin trying to crawl off my body and my head wants to explode because I just can't do it. I'm just like, I need more. I need to be doing more. I can't just do this thing, and I start getting twitchy. And another thing, Manuel, I mean, you guys won't see it, but when I'm in class, if any of my real class students are in chat now, you'll know this, but when I'm in class, I move. I stand up and I'm always walking and moving around, blah, blah, blah. And I find it so difficult, and even to the point where sometimes some students say, Rich, could you, please, right? But I find that difficult. Find it very difficult to just sit down and be calm in class, It's difficult for me. I can do it, but it requires effort to like stop myself from buzzing around. And yeah, I've heard that that's an ADHD type of thing. My name is Khalid, and I am from Morocco. Hello, Khalid. and you have a rather disturbing image of a clown as your profile picture. Well, thank you very much for that. Do we have any other questions? Pallavi, yes. Yes. That's right. It's used for children and stuff as well, isn't it? But it's famous anyway. Anyway, how about my namaste? Namaste. Welcome to Satsang. It's because I follow, or I used to follow, I don't follow so much anymore, but I follow this guy called Muji. He used to be one of my kind of spiritual gurus. I still respect him a lot, but as you guys know, I am a rather devout Christian now. But I still respect Muji, and I still like to listen to him. And Muji actually discovered his spiritual path through Christian mysticism. So he does have a connection to Christianity, although I'm not sure that he has declared that Jesus is his savior, so to speak. Perhaps he has. But he basically talks about meditation and things like that. He's cool. I like him. And I think you could do a lot worse than having Muji as your spiritual guide. So, yeah. So I get a lot of my Hindi from Muji, from listening to his videos. As I said, I don't really listen to them anymore, but I used to. Today is the first day of May, international work, so it's a bank holiday. And Rich is working for 2 hours, let him go. Oh, my word. It's not a bank holiday in the UK. Our bank holiday is the Monday the 6th, Manuel. That's a good question, Pachu. How do you plan for teaching lessons in class? You know, it's important that for different personalities, levels of experience, and styles of teaching, there are different effective strategies for planning classes. Okay, so it's very important, Pachu, if you are a teacher, that you take what I say right now with a pinch of salt, considering that it might not be what works for everyone. But I'll tell you now, given the kind of teacher I am and how long I've been teaching, how I plan most of my classes. So number one, what am I interested in, and what do I think my students... Actually, no, I've got this the wrong way. What do I think my students will be interested in? And one effective guide for that is, what am I currently interested in? Because often, if I find something interesting, then I know that if I do a class on that my students will find it interesting. So, what am I interested in? Then probably my students will be interested in that. So that is number one, right? Number one. And as I say, I often use this as a guide. So if I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of spicy and interesting, then I'll do that. Now, my second consideration is, what do I need to cover as per the course requirements? This is often called a scheme of work. So I often check that against the scheme of work. So for example, recently I had to do some lessons on the passive, right? So at first I had in my head, and you know I'm not a grammar-based teacher. I don't like to come from a grammar perspective, but we had to cover the passive. So first and foremost, get the passive, and then I think, how can I present and teach this and do some activities on this in an interesting way? How can we make the passive interesting? Right? And I totally can't remember how we did that. So, nope, it's gone. Can't remember what the topic was. But also we had some present perfect. Recently did some present perfect. And my go-to for present perfect is making a bucket list and talking about a bucket list. And then I teach have you ever with the bucket list. So, you know, I have a list of interesting topics I've done in the past, and I refer to those as and when certain grammar points come up. So number one, what do I think my students will be interested in? Number two, what do I think would need per the course requirements? And then number three, so normally I focus on an engaging and authentic communicative activity, right? Which should be a 20 plus minute activity, right? And I work backwards from there. So I want to start with my big guns, right? This is the big guns that we're going to fire at the end of class and blow everyone away with an authentic, real conversation, right? That's the big guns. And then once I have the big gun in mind, then we lead up to it with the stages throughout the class. So let's say that I want to teach present perfect, and I've chosen to do bucket list for present perfect using a bucket list, okay? So then I start by designing my big gun, which is going to be the students are going to interview each other about things on their bucket list using have you ever, and then would you like to. So have you ever gone bungee jumping? Would you like to go bungee jumping, right? That's my big gun for the end of that class. Now I'll work backwards to try and equip students to do that effectively. And broadly speaking, work backwards from the big gun activity, and broadly speaking, I will follow an ESA structure, which is engage, study, activate. So the big gun activity, asking each other, have you ever and would you like to, at the end of that class, that's my activate. Then I need some study in the middle. So the study is your grammar grandma, right? Talking about the rules and the form of present perfect. And it's also the exercises. So some practice exercises, practicing meaning mainly, a bit of form, and also some pronunciation practice. Have you ever? Have you ever? Everyone? Have you ever? Have you ever? Have you ever? Girls, boys, girls in a boy's voice, boys in a girl's voice. Okay, right, moving on. Would you like to? Would you like to? Right, have you ever? Would you like to? Have you ever? Would you like to? Okay, practice with each other. Have you ever gone parachuting? Would you like to go parachuting? Have you ever eaten weird food? Would you like to eat weird food? Okay. Right, so that's our study, and then we go all the way to engage. What's engage? Engage is we want to get your interest right from the start, right? So engage, I want it to be the most interesting part of the class just right from the start. Something that you just hear it and you're just like, I need to know more, right? I need to know more, okay? So, I don't have a great engage for my bucket list class. Actually, I think I should think about it more, but I'll tell you generally what I use. As a general rule, for my bucket list class, I use this. I show this on the board to the students right at the start. People are coming in, and I put that on the board. And I say, hey, everybody, what do you think you can read in this book? Talk with a partner for 2 minutes. What ideas do you think you can read in this book? Okay. Then they talk together, and then I show them this. And I say, this is a list of things in the book. Can you guess the missing words? What could they be? For example, milk is milk a cow. Milk a cow. That's something interesting to do before you die, isn't it? What do you think the other things are? Talk together. 5 minutes. And then they talk together. Try to think of the different things that it could be. And then we reveal them. Oh, it's go skinny dipping at midnight. And remember that these are not recommendations. They're just things in the book. Teacher didn't recommend you to go skinny dipping at midnight. And of course, the students say, what's skinny dipping? And I say, skinny dipping is when you take off all your clothes and you jump in the river to go swimming. It's very naughty and you shouldn't do it. Right, and gate crash is gate crash a party. Do is something else. Appear is something else. So you get the idea. So this is engaging. This is engage, right? So that's the idea that we engage, study, and then our big gun, activate. And why do I call it the big gun if it's not the most interesting part? Well, because it is interesting, because it's a communication activity, but also it's real communication. The big gun is when the students are going to actually talk in a normal way, and they're going to use all of the context and information from the lesson naturally without the teacher interfering. The teacher can interfere in engage and study, but when we get to activate, the teacher steps back and it's the students. The students are away doing whatever it is. The teacher monitors for errors and you give some error correction at the end and reflection and bum, 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 you're done. Okay, so that's an ESA class. The other general way that I plan classes, the other one after ESA, is TBL, which is task-based learning. And honestly, TBL is basically like ESA backwards, which you might think is a bit weird, but that's what it is. I still actually start with a bit of engage, right, with TBL, but then you go right into activate, which is you give the students your big gun right at the start, before you teach anything. So imagine we do the bucket list, but I don't teach you about present perfect. I don't teach you about have you ever and all that. I just say, right, write a list of things you want to do before you die. Okay, now ask other students if they want to do it, or ask other students if they did those things and if they want to. So then I do that and I monitor for the language you use. So the teacher monitors the language, right? So we do the activate right at the start. Then we listen to a native doing the same task and notice the different language that the native uses, right? So what language does the native use when they do the task which you didn't use? What is the difference in your language, how you used it in the big gun, And what is the difference in how the native uses it when they do the big gun? I don't know why I'm calling this the big gun activity, by the way. That's my terminology, and it just came to me, and I have no idea. Okay, but I like it now. It sounds good. A big gun. Everyone wants to talk about big guns, okay? So it's the big gun activity now. That's it. So you listen to a native doing the big gun, and you notice the difference in language, and then we study that language. Ooh, now we're into the S of ESA. So that's when we do the study activities, the practice activities, the pronunciation. And then we have Activate Part 2. Now you get to do a similar task, not the same one because that's boring. You get to do a similar task as before, but this time you've got your new language direct from a native. So you're all like, yeah, I'm going to use the new language, boy. Right? So we do Activate Part 2. So that essentially is TBL, task-based learning. It's like ESA, but we swap the letters around a bit. Okay. So there you go. That's how I design my lessons, Pachu. And I can't take credit for any of this stuff, right? I'm just doing what I've learnt from great thinkers out there, right? And I mentioned the names of these people before. You want dialogic storytelling? Jamie Keddy. ESA? That's Jeremy Harmer. Jeremy Harmer came up with ESA, and it's fantastic. TBL, it's Jane and Dave Willis. They are the inventors, or Willis? Why do I never get her name right? They're the people who really proliferated task-based learning. So these pedagogical theories, right? I'm just using them. But I did come up with the big gun activity. Bang, that's mine. That's mine. All right, thank you. Have I missed any questions? What's the difference between feel like ing and feel like plus 2? What? Feel like plus 2? That's just wrong. Feel like going to the cinema is correct. I feel like to go to is wrong. All right, Dan, that's an easy one for me. Thank you very much for that. Manuel's son just arrived. Fantastic. That's right, Manuel. They are. You're right. Thank you very much, Mujahid. That's absolutely brilliant. Do you know the statue game? The statue game. Starts out as a curator, stands in the field, everyone playing stands at the far end. The objective of the game is for a statue to tag the curator, thereby becoming the curator. Oh, yeah, I know this. Yeah, I used to play this when I was a kid. I remember that. I know that, Pallavi, yeah. I know this. I know this. Thank you very much, Pallavi. That's absolutely lovely comment. And thank you, Pachu. All right. Brilliant. Okay, everybody, I want to just thank you again for joining me today. My name has been Teacher Rich, Professor Rich. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you join us next time. The next stream will be on Saturday, the 4th of May. And I have no idea what we'll be doing because you know how I design my lessons. I do them like that, which means that it's very much like what's going on in my head right now and what do I find interesting. That's how it happens. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you on Saturday. Keep on with your English, and I'll catch you next time. Have a lovely, lovely week. Bye-bye now. Share with your friends. Do you know anyone who's learning English? Now's a good time to share this stream, share all the stuff with people. Thank you. All right, see you later.